Right. So I discussed president and prime minister, right? And in the parliament, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, presiding officer of Lok Sabha and presiding officer of Rajya Sabha. Now I am going to discuss Council of Ministers. Okay, Council of Ministers. So Council of Ministers, who will appoint the Council of Ministers and duties of Council of Ministers, responsibilities, all these things I'll explain. As per the Constitution of India, Article 74 represent the Council of Ministers to aid and advise President. Article 75 other provisions as to ministers. Article 77 conduct business of the government of India. Article 78 duties of Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Article 88 rights of ministers as respects the houses. Right? Now, see here one by one I will explain. Right? First of all, the nature of advice by the ministers. As per the Article 74, the Council of Ministers will give advice to the President, okay, with a mean communication with the Prime Minister. Right? There shall be, as per the Article 74, there shall be Council of Ministers with the Prime Minister at the head to aid and advise the President. Okay, there shall be a Council of Ministers. To this, for all these Council of Ministers, who is the head? Prime Minister is the head. So, for what purpose they are there? To aid and advise the President to run the government. The advice tendered by ministers to the President shall not be inquired into in any court. So, the ministers will give you some advices to the President. So, these things, these advices are not inquired in a court. Okay, na? The President may require the Council of Ministers to reconsider such advice. So, sometimes if in case if there is any modifications in the advice, definitely the President will give the bill to the ministers to reconsider that, to modify the bill like that. So, after modification, if again they give to the President, definitely the President definitely submit or give assent to the bill. Okay, now see, suppose let us consider the Council of Ministers gave some advice to the President. So, President expected some modifications in the advice. So, he will send again. Then Council of Ministers either will do some modifications or not. Then after second time if he send, then President most probably he should give his assent to the advices or bills. Right. Now, the appointment of the ministers. As per the Article 75 of the Constitution of India, appointment of the ministers. Who will appoint the ministers? The President will appoint the minister on the advice of Prime Minister. See, the Prime Minister shall be appointed by the President. Okay, the Prime Minister is also one of the Council of Ministers. Okay, a Central Council Minister. Okay, so Prime Minister shall be appointed by the President and other ministers shall be appointed by the President on the advice of Prime Minister. Okay, na? Prime Minister is directly like appointed by the President, but other ministers also appointed by the President, but with the advice of Prime Minister. Suppose let us consider the recent like Ministry of Aviation. One Telugu minister was there, right? Right. So, he was appointed by the President, but with the help of Narendra Modi. Right. The total number of ministers, including the Prime Minister, the total number of ministers, including the Prime Minister, in the Council of Ministers shall not exceed 15%. Shall not exceed 15% of total strength of the Lok Sabha. This is according to 91st Constitutional Amendment Act 2023. See, the total strength of the Lok Sabha, for the total strength of the Lok Sabha 545, okay, 545 or 550 you can take. So, 550 into 15 you can take shall not be greater than 82 members. Maximum number of ministers, okay, council of ministers not more than 82. You can say it should not exceed 15%. A minister who is a member of one house of the parliament has the right to speak and to take part in the proceedings of the other house. Suppose a minister is actually from Lok Sabha, right? So he can participate in the Rajya Sabha also, he can sit, he can participate in the Rajya Sabha also, he can talk in Rajya Sabha also, but he can't use vote, he can't cast a vote in case of passing of bill. Okay, now, so remember this is important. A minister who is a member of one house of the parliament has the right to speak and to take part in the proceedings of other house, but okay, he can vote only in the house of which he is a member. He can't vote in the other house. That is very, very important. Now, the next one, the responsibility of ministers. The responsibilities of ministers. One is, first one, collective responsibility. Collective responsibilities. Now see here, Article 75th clearly states that the Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. Okay, the Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. This means that all the ministers own joint responsibility to the Lok Sabha for all their acts of omissions and commissions. So you'll get to know from this statement. This is according to the constitution. Now, the principle of collective responsibility also means that the cabinet decisions bind all the cabinet ministers even if they differed in the cabinet meetings. Suppose they'll conduct the cabinet meetings to pass the bill, to advise the bill, right, to modify the bill. So out of all the council of ministers, maybe one or two members they will differ their advices, right. So in such case, they should obey that. They should not oppose that. If they want to oppose, they should resign. Okay, now see, if any minister disagree with the decision of cabinet, he is not prepared to defend it. He must resign. He must resign. For example, let us take example. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was resigned in this regarding this Hindu Code Bill in 1953. So maybe he differed, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar differed regarding these advices given to the Jawaharlal Nehru during this Hindu Code Bill. So he was resigned. And another example, C.D. Deshmukh resigned regarding this bill, the policy of reorganization of states. So during the preparation of bill, some of the ministers they may oppose. In case if they oppose, definitely they should resign. Otherwise, they should accept the bill. They should accept the bill. Now, the individual responsibilities we will see. The individual responsibilities. Article 75th also contains the principle of individual responsibility. What is that? It states that the ministers hold office during pleasure of the president. The ministers hold office during the pleasure of the president, which means that the president can remove a minister even at a time when council of ministers enjoy the confidence of Lok Sabha. See, suppose there are 50 members are there, council of ministers. Okay, the president can remove out of that 50 members, 2-3 members can remove. The other people are enjoying that council of ministries. They are enjoying the ministries, but the 2-3 members they removed. So no one should question. Maybe they are opposing certain bills. So, but the president can remove these ministers only on the advice of prime minister. Okay, now, however, the president removes a minister only on the advice of prime minister. That is important. President remove ministers only on the advice of prime minister. Okay, now that is individual responsibility. So individual responsibility is also important for each minister. They should obey the rules, right? So suppose let us consider the council of ministers. I'll explain. The council of ministers are categorized into 3. One is cabinet ministers, main ministries comes under this cabinet. then ministers of states, then deputy ministers. Okay, remember the council of ministers are of three, that is cabinet ministers, minister of states and deputy minister. Generally deputy ministers are for only political reason. Maybe 2-3 parties they combine and form a government, that time they may give deputy prime minister or deputy minister like that. Okay, mostly cabinet ministers play a key role for the good governance. Good governance means like for the passing of bill, advising president, or aid and advice to the president, mostly cabinet ministers will do. And ministers of states are supporting to the cabinet ministers and some departments. Now you can see here, cabinet ministers. These head the important ministries of the central government like Home Ministry, Defense Ministry, Finance Ministry, External Affairs Ministry, etc. Right? Cabinet is the chief policy formulating body. So remember, that's why I said chief policy formulating body, main organ of the government. So they will decide, they will make the policies, they will make the rules, they will make the laws. Okay, they are the main persons in the parliament to aid and advise to the prime minister to run the smooth government. Right. So these are, you can see in this government, these are the main cabinet ministries. These people are the main cabinet ministries. Okay, now ministers of states, now see here, these can either be given independent charge of ministers, independent charge of the ministers, or departments, or can be attached to the cabinet ministers. Like you can take Ministry of Home, that is a cabinet, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of States for Home Affairs, that is under this Home Cabinet Ministry, there is sub category, you can say, right? That's why sometimes independent charge of ministers or departments, or sometimes this ministry is attached to the cabinet ministers to help that cabinet ministers. In case of attachment, they may either be given the charge of departments of ministers, or headed by the cabinet ministers, or allotted to the specific work related to ministries headed by the cabinet ministers. So the cabinet ministers, under the cabinet ministers, sometimes they'll give, Ministry of States will give for particular department. Okay, like that. That is ministers of states. Now next is deputy ministers. Deputy ministers, now they are attached to the cabinet ministers or ministers of states and assist them in their administrative, political and parliamentary duties. At times, the council of ministers may also include the deputy minister. Okay, at all the times, deputy minister also included in the council of ministers. The deputy prime minister are appointed mostly for the political reasons. This is not compulsory. Political reason point of view, the deputy prime ministers are appointed. Now, role of cabinet, we can say cabinet ministers functions, we will see, right? See, it is the highest decision making in our politico-administrative system. So, in India, okay, for political and administrative system, if I consider, the cabinet ministers are the highest decision making ministers. Like suppose if there is a war, if they want to conduct a war to the Pakistan, with the Pakistan, then definitely the cabinet ministers will sit and decide. So remember, highest decision making body, okay, highest decision making body is cabinet. It is the chief formulating body, policy formulating body. Okay, now, so policy formulation, during the policy formulation, the cabinet ministers play a key role, and it is the supreme executive authority of central government. Supreme executive authority of central government. It is the chief coordinator of central administration. It is an advisory body to the president, and its advice is binding on him, right? It is the chief crisis manager and thus deals with all emergency situations. So remember, if there is an emergency like financial emergency or war emergency like that, so they will decide. So chief crisis manager, okay na, it deals with all major legislative and financial matters. So any legislative matters in the parliament and financial matters in the central government that deals. It exercises control over higher appointments. So like appointment of Supreme Court Judge of India, Supreme Court other judges, High Court Chief Justice and High Court judges, UPSC chairmen, okay na, like COG, Attorney General of India. So higher official appointment is done with the advisor given to the president by these cabinets only. It deals with the all foreign policy and foreign affairs, right? So remember, foreign policy and foreign affairs, mainly the cabinet ministers will decide the policies regarding the other countries. So now you can see the difference here. The Council of Ministers and Cabinet, the differences you can see here. Council of Ministers and Cabinet, see here. Council of Ministers, it is a wider body, consists of 60 to 70 ministers, okay, like, but less than 50%, less than 15% of total strength of Lok Sabha, okay, less than 15% of Lok Sabha, right. Here it is a smaller body, consists of 15 to 20 ministers. Cabinet is a smaller body, it consists of only 15 to 20 minutes, but here Council of Ministers, Cabinet is a subset of Council of Ministers actually, okay na. Now Council of Ministers, it includes all the three categories of ministers, like Cabinet Ministers it includes, Ministers of States include, and Deputy Minister. All three categories combining will say that Council of Ministers. And it includes cabinet ministers only. Cabinet means only cabinet ministers only. Thus, it is a part of Council of Ministers. Okay, cabinet minister or cabinet is a part of Council of Ministers, and it has no collective functions. It has no collective functions, but it has some collective functions. Collective responsibilities are there. Its function and determined by the cabinet. So what are the functions, ministries, all these things categorized by cabinet will decide, right. It directs the Council of Ministers by taking policy decisions which are binding all the ministers. So the cabinet ministers will give some guidelines to the Council of Ministers, like prepare this bill, form a policy, right. Regarding that, they will give some guidance, some rules to the Council of Ministers. It implements the decision taken by the cabinet. So if a cabinet gives some decisions, as like taking some decision, so this Council of Ministers will implement that, right, and it supervises the implementation of its decision by the Council of Ministers, okay. It is a constitutional body. Council of Ministers is a constitutional body, deals with Article 74, 75 of the Constitution. So Council of Ministers was there from the original Constitution of India. This was there from the original Constitution of India, but cabinet was not there in the original Constitution of India. This cabinet concept came from 1978 under this 44th Constitutional Amendment Act. It was inserted in Article 352. So remember, the cabinet concept was not there in the original Constitution. It was inserted in Constitution of India under the Article 352 by 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978. So 76 and 78, lot of constitutional modifications happened. So this is also one, right. So remember, cabinet concept was not there in the original Constitution. It collectively responsible to the lower house of the parliament, okay. Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to the lower house of the parliament. Here cabinet, it enforces the collective responsibility of the Council of Ministers to the lower house of the parliament. So remember, in a simple way, cabinet is enforcing agency on Council of Ministers. Cabinet decides some decisions and try to implement these decisions taken by the cabinet. Who will try to implement? Council of Ministers will try to implement. So this is the information about the Council of Ministers. So okay, so for your exam, they may ask you question like explain the roles of Council of Ministers, explain the roles of cabinet, how the cabinet is differ from the Council of Ministers. Okay, so this type of questions for your exam they may ask you.